Welcome to The Dive at Big Creek Baptist, where we dive a little bit deeper into doctrine and theology. I'm William Moore, the lead pastor of the church here at Bent Creek, and today we are continuing our series on the fall of man. And when we talk about the fall of man, as we've noted in our previous two videos, we're talking about the fall of man from the place and position he was in when he was in perfect communion with God in the Garden of Eden. So if you're new to the Bible, at the beginning of the Bible, we have an account of God making everything, including man and woman. And when man and woman are made, they have a perfect communion with God, relationship with Him. There's no sin that's separating them from God. But then because man decides to be disobedient, sin now becomes a part of the human circumstance. And as a result of that, that perfect communion is broken. And so when we talk about the fall, we're talking about falling out of that good, perfect communion with God. And that's what sin essentially is. It's our willful act of disobedience, which causes a relational divide between us and God. And so today we're talking about sin as rebellion. We've talked about sin as transgression. We're going to break down a couple of words connected with sin so we can get kind of a broader perspective on what sin is. And today we're talking about sin as rebellion. Now, because the Bible portrays people as responsible beings, that's why we say sin is a willful act, because it's a choice that we make. Because the Bible portrays people as responsible beings called to respond and engage with God in faith and obedience to His revelation. So what that means is that we're responsible to respond to God and to obey Him and to follow Him according to His Word. The Bible often portrays sin in terms of defiance and rebellion towards God. And so because we're responsible to respond to God in obedience, when we don't do that, the Bible oftentimes cast sin as an act of rebellion, an act of defiance against our King, sort of a kind of an act of a coup, if you want to phrase it that way. We don't usually think about our sin that way, but it is that way. It's a decision that we know better how to be king of our life than God, who is king. And so we're going to rebel against His way and His standard and go our own way. Isaiah 1:2 is one of many passages that talk about this idea, describing sin as rebellion. That passage says this: "I have raised children and brought them up, but they have rebelled against me." And this is God speaking about giving human beings life, giving us a standard on how to live that life. Kind of like when you were a child, your mom and dad gave you instruction, don't touch the stove when it's hot, look both ways when you cross the street, etc. Well, we have the exact same instruction on how to live this life, but through the Word of God. As opposed to God speaking it to us directly, He has given us this Word to tell us how to live, and He's given us the Spirit of God in us if we know Christ to teach us. And so He has brought us up, He has raised us up to obey Him and follow Him, and to not just obey Him as if He's some kind of tyrant who's seeking to lord over us, but to obey Him because He knows what's best. He knows how our life ought to be lived. He knows what's going to create flourishing in our life if we obey Him. And yet, we have rebelled against Him. We have said, I know what's best. I know the best way to go. I'm going to go the way I want, or I know what makes me feel best, or I know what makes me contented, we think, but doesn't last actually, or maybe we think we just know better than God. Or as we talked about with missing the mark, sometimes sin is that we just completely don't even give thought to what God's standard is and we go our own way. All of that is rebellion. All of it's saying, I'm not going to follow your order, King Jesus. I'm going to go my own way and be the king of my life. Even though we didn't make us, we don't give ourselves life. He has full right over us as our king, whether we believe in Him or not. We're saying, no, we know the better way to go. That's what we want to do. So seen in this light, if we think about it this way, sin is a personal and willful act of disobedience, the raising of a clenched fist toward the one who saved us, saying, I'm going to defy you and I'm going to go my own way. And so that's what it means when we talk about sin as rebellion. I know, as we said before in this series, there's a lot to this. We're going to be looking at sin in a bunch of different angles. But if you're listening today and you're thinking to yourself, hey, that's how I've lived my life. I've said to God, I want to go my own way. I want to do my own thing. And you're interested in talking with somebody about that, please reach out to me. Beyond that, if you've got topic suggestions or questions about this topic or others we've discussed, you can email me anytime. wlawrencem@gmail.com is my email, and pass that along to me, and I'll be sure to connect with you. This is an intricate part of our discipleship process here at Bend Creek. So if you're a member or a guest of our church and you're seeking to get into our discipleship ministries, this is a great way to do that. It's a primer really for our Sunday school classes and some of what we do in our worship service. So don't miss out on it every Tuesday. We release these in our email, and they're also on YouTube as well, so be sure to check into that. Pass this along to somebody. Check in with people. Ask, are they watching The Dive here at the church? Did you check this week's episode out? Or share it with somebody who may be impacted or interested in the things we're talking about. And I encourage you to just pass it along to people that you know. And I pray this is a blessing to you, that God uses it to encourage you in your faith. And until next time, we will see you on The Dive.